We are back with round 6 of 6, and we have a familiar face back in this final round of Swiss. We have Jonathan Rodriguez, Jonathan Rodriguez back at it again with his signature mono blue deck. This time taking a brand new approach, as you see a shoe in the energy here. So, can this be the infamous shoe control? Who knows? But we will find out today as Jonathan pilots another mono blue deck to potentially another PPG top 8? So we'll see as Jonathan faces off what Jonathan actually created, the SS3 blue control. So it's funny how Jonathan has to face his creation in round 6 here. Really, really interesting. We're going to probably pull up the deck list now so you guys can check them out. But it looks like this is the infamous shoe control here Jonathan decided to go with. And wow, my co-commentator just got Menchie's without me. Yes, you heard me right.
It's very good.
He's a terrible human being. He's a monster.
But
I don't...
Really enjoying this ice cream, so... I think it was the correct play. And let me see, this is shoe control?
Shoe control.
Like vanilla?
Yes.
Shoe? This man decided to leave his house with a multiple pair of shoes, and is this for basically the top 8, like winning in, or?
This is a winning in.
Okay, nice. So we're gonna see if Jonathan Rodriguez with his pair of shoes can take down Nick McKinley and SS3 blue control. I think this is closer to a mirror match than the titles might lead to believe, but what I want to know if Nick is playing the 6-drop Goku. Let me see if we can get their lists here.
Yeah, they're listed right there. If you put down that delicious ice cream that you did not get me, maybe we can find it.
So Nick McKinley. Oh, I just opened up to it. That's perfect. So, yeah, so he is playing Dragon Fist, the 6-drop. So if the turns ever come down to, turns 6, 7, 8, and he's in relative control of the game, I suspect that card is going to start taking over for sure. So,
what's he playing?
The Dragon Fist.
Oh, Dragon Fist. He's actually playing Dragon Fist in the main board. Nick McKinley is, and that's a pretty good call on his part.
The card is absolutely insane, and I think it saw not really a resurgence, but people started to play it because of blue-green. When the popular blue-green deck surfaced, people needed a way to deal with barrier creatures, and one of the best 6-drop blue cards that can do that is Dragon Fist. So probably the main reason why that started to see popularity.
Yeah, very powerful card in Dragon Fist, but 3 energy down for Jonathan, 3 shoe energy, 3 brand new shoe energy down for Jonathan, and that can't be good because he's playing an engine that relies on those being in the main deck.
Yeah, so he basically takes the 3-drop Trunks black card that you see on board right now. He summons it, gets any no effect 1500 from his deck, summons it, and it gains critical for the turn, and then it just becomes 15k for the rest of the time that it's on board. And then normally the Trunks will go away, but in this mono blue deck, what you do is that you flute it back to your hand, and you can keep recycling it almost every turn. So every turn you're getting a 1500 body and a critical attack. And not to mention that trunks back to your hand for every flute that you have. So definitely a really nice little engine going on, and it's a lot more aggressive than the pure control mono blue deck. So we're gonna see if that gives him a bit of a card advantage moving forward. But I suspect that once it's much later in the game, Nick should take over with his more powerful bombs. But we see here Beerus. So
this is actually pretty taking a turn for something much like very unique, because Nick is down to 3 here and Jonathan's got like 20 creatures on board. So it's actually shaping out to be pretty interesting game. You don't expect this from a control deck at all, and it looks like Jonathan's taking a brand new take on this and just really beating his opponent in and putting a lot of pressure, making Nick commit those cards.
Yeah, I mean, and he might this pressure might force Nick to discard some of the higher drop cards that he's been holding on to. So in a way, the early game aggression might pay off by getting rid of some problematic cards even before they hit board, and creating so much pressure like this might just take Nick completely out of the game if he's not already with so many cards in his opponent's board. So, and honestly, if there is no removal spell for that Beerus, it is my experience that when someone untaps with a Beerus, that is
nothing good could come out.
Yeah, that one's pretty significant. So, oh, there you go. So one Beerus takes down the other. You know, set 1 takes down set 3, and so he had an answer for it. So the game doesn't just end on the spot, but he still has to deal with all the other 15Ks that are on the board, and that might prove to be difficult without a Sensu Bean. You can see that 2 Sensu Bean in his energy, definitely super impactful due to the fact that he's getting pressured by these 15Ks. And these attacks are just not going through because of those defensive Gohans. Like we saw last round, that 1K Gohan just goes from defensive to offensive and generates so much card advantage, and being able to bring it back with Flute, definitely one of the most powerful interactions in this format. So Jonathan, I think, exploiting Flute to the maximum. He plays energy boosted Boo and Chronoa, so he gets to draw a card, flute it back, draw a card from the Flute, and then play another 1-drop draw card. So he gets card advantage from that. He gets card advantage from the Trunks, card advantage from fluting back the Gohan. So he's definitely abusing Flute to its maximum potential here, and that's why I think he chose this route for his deck building choices.
Man, what do you say? This has to be the funniest winning in for Jonathan. He's facing the deck that he created in a winning in.
Right, and kind of next leveling it almost in a way. You know, he might have been playtesting, and since there's been a resurgence in these type of mono blue, you know, green blue strategies, he might have just seen someone that was playing the mono blue, and it might have been a control, but he found it difficult to deal with other people's structures, so he might have just adapted that style into his own, and then you're seeing it here. He's going all in with. I suspect now that he's committed so much to this attack, it's going to be everything. So
I think this is lethal.
Even
tries to combo with a negate.
Even a negate in there just for good measure. And in case this goes horribly awry, he still has a Beerus in hand, so don't worry, folks. This game will for sure end. Now, one interesting thing is, you can't get 7 drops because of the restriction that SS3 leader has, where you can only mana up to 6 energy. So that's the reason why you see the decks stopping at a bomb like Beerus. And sometimes Dragon Fist. There's just not that much versatility in terms of the bombs that you can play, because there are the most powerful, and not many other cards are as powerful as, for example, the 5-drop Beerus. So it would be interesting if I've seen people.
Wow, and Nick had to dedicate all his cards, and Jonathan just had infinite more attacks. It was that was insane. I've never seen mono blue lose that fast.
Yeah, I mean that was a completely much quicker game than we were anticipating. I mean, both mono blue control decks. Some people have been saying, "Oh, they're definitely going into time. Strategies like that are way too slow for the format." But with Jonathan Rodriguez Trunks black card package, he just won, with relative ease. Didn't help that Nick managed 2 sensu beans and wasn't able to defend himself a little bit better, but just taking that game down pretty easily. I want to see how games 2 and 3 develop. As always, they could be much different in terms of player play style, card choices coming out of the sideboard, things like that. So we're gonna see. I don't suspect any of the high drops, even like from either player side coming out in game 2 and 3. I think those are still gonna be in the deck, even if Nick feels like Jonathan Rodriguez has a much more aggressive strategy than his own. He's still gonna rely on those late game threats. He doesn't know if Jonathan's gonna slow the game down with Bergamos or cards like that coming out of the sideboard. They don't have information on deck lists just yet, so all of those things are something to keep in mind. And for that reason, you don't want to take out too many bombs to where you don't have the late game secured anymore. So definitely, it could go either way in terms of Nick's mentality, but I don't suspect Jonathan Rodriguez is gonna change too much. One detriment from using that Trunks in so many vanilla 15Ks for the engine is that he loses a lot of deck space in terms of sideboarding and sideboarding options and things like that. So a lot more predictable, I guess, in game 2 and 3 from Jonathan. But he might just be saying, "Hey, look, this is so powerful that honestly my opponent can probably just not deal with it anyway. So I'm just gonna keep doing it." And best of threes don't affect my deck's win percentage at all. And that's probably why he's doing so well. Even if it's a little bit more predictable than some other decks, it looks to be very powerful here. And we all love seeing Shu get out there. So
yeah, so it looks like he drew like 3 or 4 shoes in his opening hand. He just quickly put those back into the main deck. That's definitely something that you don't want to see.
You don't want to keep those.
Yeah.
They are much less effective when just played for 2. So we're gonna see if he can get a little bit of a better hand. I suspect both players want, mainly Gohans and Flutes. That is what the early game is primarily about. Later in the mid game, you're gonna be wanting Sensu Beans and obviously the bombs, the Beerus's, cards like that. And one of the most key cards, the Tapion, to be able to awaken yourself. Whoever goes first really wants that. So we'll see if Nick, in this case, he's going first. He's going to be the one to have the Tapion. He plays a Boo here. So 2 blue versus 1 blue, 1 red opening. So if Jonathan can, take advantage of this and play multiple cards, but no, both players just trade off 1-drop 5K draw card and say go. So Nick McKinley, he can get really ahead here if he has Tapion. He does. He slams on the table, takes the 2 life, spins back the little nugget, and awakens himself. You can see the massive amount of card advantage that this generates, and just like that, the game is already blown wide open in one direction. So we want to see that Jonathan Rodriguez here answers with his own Tapion. I think Tapion, getting rid of the Nick's Tapion and then awakening himself and going from there is definitely what we want to see in this turn. But is Jonathan actually already at 4? Because that might change. Oh yeah, he is. Okay, so that, maybe he goes for Tapion anyway just for a little bit of board control, but it might be a little less appealing due to the fact that he doesn't have free life to be taking. And yeah, there you see, instead of choosing the removal option, he goes for a more defensive card advantage option, looping Chronoas and drawing extra cards. And you can see how much card selection these mono blue decks have. They're super consistent. They get to see so many cards in one turn because of these literal draw card 1-drops and the combination with flute. So and just like we were saying before, the defensive option for Nick here, coming down with a Gohan, and Jonathan again rewarded for adding this aggressive package to the deck. He's able to now, I suspect he's not going to go for the leader with that Trunks. What he's going to do is he's going to attack the Gohan and try to see if he can get a little bit more board control. I would like to see him do that. And yeah, both go toward the Gohan. The Boo dies, and you know, if he doesn't, if he combos here, it would be acceptable. And surprisingly, Nick just lets it die, honestly.
No, yeah, it's something that's definitely super powerful, getting rid of those Gohans on board, because we all know about the play of fluting back the Gohan. So it is very, very powerful to actually just kill the Gohan, get it out of the way, and just like make your opponent play without a defensive option.
No, and I'm just really surprised that Nick valued that Gohan so little. He just let it die to a 15k attack, like no combos off of Jonathan at all, and then the Gohan still died. I would have liked to see even a 5k would have, you know, merited defending that Gohan. So very surprising. I mean, not valuing a card like that in the mirror is, you know, borderline incorrect, I guess, because every turn that those 15k survive, it forces the opponent to, you know, have a defense, have a 5k, have a Sensu Bean for them. So just not caring so little about that card. I want to see, or I guess I should say, I want to know what his mentality towards that is. But regardless, he deals with Jonathan's board pretty easily. Not destroying the Gohan because it now can get fluted back, so it definitely matters what he chose to kill there. I want to see if it comes back to bite Nick, because like we said, it's just a lot about the Gohan in the early game. Once the bombs start coming down, the Gohans and the 15 and all the 15Ks are a little bit less relevant. But for now, they're just so important. I want to see more priority on those cards, and you can see it. Like both players, I believe, are at 3, and still it's about the board. It's not about the life. They could be going at the life, trying to be more aggressive, but it's about the creatures. The creatures matter a lot more right now. Alright, so here we see actually that 4-drop Vegeta is one of the most powerful cards in Jonathan's strategy, simply because it allows him on turn 4 to, well, first of all, if he's not awakened yet, it's a source of awakening because of its effect, but more importantly, it untaps a mana and draws a card, so it sets up for that Trunks that we've been seeing him do. He basically plays a 4-drop for 3 energy, and then uses the last energy to play the Trunks, summoning 3 threats in 1 turn. And you know, that's the main turn 4 play when we saw him do it here. And I suspect that this is one of the reasons he built the deck in this certain configuration. He just likes forcing the Sensu Beans in the mirror out of the opponents. Being able to, now that Vegeta can harass the Piccolo if he chooses to, although I suspect it'll go toward leader. And you saw there maybe Nick thinking that the card was gonna go to his hand. He was almost putting it in his hand, and he realized, like, oh, you know, that shoe, you know, has an effect right now, at least in that crit, and it ended up going to the discard. So Jonathan now in a slightly better position because of that. His opponent is 1 double strike away from losing, and interesting. So the attack on the Piccolo actually took a negate, so that's very fortunate for Jonathan. And the attacks don't stop. If you don't Sensu Bean, you're gonna get attacked by these 15Ks. It's just how it goes, and that's why defending them is so important. And I would not be surprised if Nick is actually running out of resources at this point. Only 4, I believe 4 or 5 cards max in his hand. So not looking good for him, but he's going into his turn 5. So you know what that means. He's has beers available to him. So we're gonna see if he has one of those in his hand. Try to, you know, climb back into this game. And let's see how he does it. Let's give him a 2 life here. He just considering his options is always good. You don't even if he had something like a Bears, he doesn't just want to slam it on the table. There could be a slightly better option for him, just depending. And here, I think the reason why Jonathan just decided to let go of his shoe is he's saying, okay, we're a little bit past the point in the game where an attack with the shoe matters. I'm just going to conserve my resources. And probably he's thinking I'm going to go all in next turn. So letting that shoe die there instead of defending it is a little bit more acceptable than earlier on in the game. And it came out for free, so Jonathan doesn't really care much. So just Nick trying to deal with the board a little bit. He's probably, if he hasn't played anything by this point, he just doesn't have a clear choice of what he wants to do, and it has to be a big play this turn if he hopes to come back into this game. There you see the pseudo super combo and the red 1k Goku GT that draws a card when he's comboed and adds 1k to the combo power. Oh, and huge play here, Scientist Fu, drawing him more fuel, only 1 energy cost, so he still has a play after this one, and this could be the moment where he comes back into the game. Going after the creatures, it could be said that the Fu has double strike, so he wants to go face just to try to end the game as soon as possible. But going after the battle card is just fine as well. It's only a 20k, so it's not the hardest card to remove. And we see Jonathan actually putting priority on defending it, committing 2 super combos to it. So he definitely values the Vegeta on the board, and I suspect mainly he's doing this because if he lets his entire board die in favor of keeping his super combos in his hand for some type of all-in, if Nick just has a Whis Coercion for Jonathan's turn, then maybe it's a lot more difficult for Jonathan to come back. So I suspect he's protecting his creatures, you know, just in case, just to play around certain cards. And this Beerus is just devastating, as whoever plays Beerus first has such a significant advantage in the game. And you see now Jonathan, there's just no good options ever. Discarding is just very hard when having to discard to the effect of the Beerus 5-drop. And I don't blame him for thinking about it for a long time. He has to choose. He has to think, you know, can I win this game through card advantage, or do I want to go for an all-in play now that my opponent is at lower amounts of life? You know, what exactly is it that I want my next turn to look like? And that's probably what he's debating right now. You see him taking back his choice, just a little bit more indecisive than what we've seen him be in the past. Jonathan Rodriguez, you know, if you see him live on videos, he's normally a lot faster about his decision making, but this is one of the more crucial points in the game. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe he has to use the Mafuba now if he wants to Mafuba the beer, so he might have chosen not to. I'm gonna see right now. Okay, so choosing the cards. Tapping again comes down. Maybe he's sure about it this time. And you can see a card like this one, you know, only a 5-drop, but so extremely powerful that it, you know, it cleans up a little bit of the board, discards a card from the opponent's hand, and it still hasn't been dealt with yet. He still has to put 15k in front of it for his life not to be harassed. So just always difficult to deal with the Beerus. We're gonna see, but the good thing is Jonathan gets his own turn 5 here, 5 energy turn. So, and right off the top, there's the man we've all been talking about. huge top deck from him. I do not believe he had that in his hand previously, so extremely good draw there. He's going to consider his options here a little bit, but I think after a few attacks from his Vegeta on board and his leader, he's most definitely going to go for that beer. So maybe he wants to force out Whis Coercion from Nick first. Just see what Nick does. Attacking here, you know, it's free. There it's the Whis Coercion. So now he might feel, you know, that the coast is a little bit more clear. I think in the remove from play a pile of Nicks, there's a few more Coercions. So I think Jonathan Rodriguez is feeling a lot better, you know, seeing that card come out and protect. You see that protecting his Vegeta really paid off in that sequence, because it forced out the Coercion, exactly what he wanted to do. So it might be the time. Maybe he's considering a smaller play, just to leave more mana open. Always good to consider that as well. But honestly, I don't think there's another play. If you have 5 mana, you play the bears on the table. That's how the mirror works almost. And something that he cannot do is use the Sensu Bean to try and apply more pressure with his cards. Once the Beerus is on board, that's the only play he can make. And you see the hesitation. Do I go for a wider board? Do I go for the big play? It's just something to consider. If he's not going to go for the Beerus this turn, he definitely should draw more cards with the Chrono he put to the forefront of his hand. You know, just to see more options. And he's decided he's going all in with this. And does Nick have the Whis Coercion? That's what it's gonna come down to, at least in this turn right now, because if this attack is not blocked, Jonathan might go for that all in. He's also at 2 here, just a little bit of a correction. Okay, and let's see what shoes on the other foot this time around, as the shoe control player is the one attacking with the 5-drop Beerus. Oh wow! And there was actually a life hidden, not hidden per se, but not truly visible under the other 2 lives. So he was actually at 3 the entire time and in a much better position than I thought. So hold the phone. He gets to untap here with 6 energy, and he might be able to do something big with this. A Dragon Fist, for example, would be huge here. So, and there it is. And you know, basically known as the Mirror Breaker, is just once one of these is out on the board, it's just extremely difficult to get rid of. And on top of that, you know, the opponents, because it bounces a bomb every single turn, they can only make 1 play a turn. So bouncing the Bears, there it goes, and it's almost forcing Jonathan to doing that every single turn instead of investing his energy into something else and attacking for double strike. And because of that Vegeta having to deal with Nick's board on the previous turn, it is a lethal attack. I doubt Jonathan's gonna let it go through, but in a much worse position because that 1 life that, you know, I did not think he had it, but he did. And now 1-2 here. So you see here, purely defensive turn from Jonathan. He's just using his Senzu Beans to defend his life, Mafuba to get rid of the problem well, the smaller one, because Dragon Fist is still there threatening. Leader Swing. Jonathan might even take this one, to be honest. Oh, goes on the Vegeta instead. Okay, investing a Boo here. Almost certainly Jonathan just throws a 5k here if he has one that he doesn't really care to spend. So it's super worth it to keep that Vegeta alive. And there goes a Cronoa. He might have not even had the energy to play that on his own turn anyway, so it's just a free throwaway there. And there you go, completely unexpected. Scientist Fu, just always a surprise and going to be very difficult for Jonathan to deal with. His leader might be Sensu Bean, but still being a 25k body, it's going to get value no matter what. And I'd be surprised to see if Nick, you know, invests a couple of cards into this attack, at least all his super combos. So there's one. Only one? Maybe. I think Jonathan's already comboing. We'll see. Yeah, so with that Sensu Bean, it's not actually going to take that many cards to fend off the Scientist Fu. If Nick had more super combos, he would have definitely invested them. I think Jonathan can make the read that Nick does not have any more Piccolos, at least, left in his hand. He could have GT Goku after he untaps, but Jonathan might go for a big play here if he doesn't see Whis Coercion coming out of Nick's side. So, and 6 energy. Now he can go for the Beerus plus the extra energy to summon the 1 mana Trunks. He has a lot more options than he did in the previous turn, and you can see he's playing a little bit faster, a little bit more confident. He knows what this turn is going to look like at least. So,
is it 1-1 or
should be?
Not too long.
Yeah, I believe there's only been 1 game so far, so should be 1-0. And this Trunks is gonna confirm if Nick has a Sensu Bean in hand. It's pretty reasonably late into the game, so he might have one. Chooses to do a Gohan instead. Wow, even taking a negate there.
At all costs, Vegeta. It's gonna be only a 20k, but
because he has Sensu Bean, I think he can put a little bit more power into this attack. And Nick just doesn't even figure. He just throws it on the table, knows he can't beat it, and Jonathan Rodriguez cleans it up.
A second consecutive top 8 in a huge field here for Jonathan Rodriguez. First, playing the mono blue deck that he practically innovated, first one to come out with it in the entire scene, and now with switching it up a little bit. I think this deck is same, still mono blue control, kind of, but it has a much more aggressive take to it in the form of the shoe package with dimension control Trunks. So it's pretty interesting to see how he's innovated the deck and kind of came to this, you know, final conclusion. It does still play a lot of the mainstays that, you know, Super Saiyan 3 control would play, but it just plays a pretty unique package that it does take up a good amount of cards, but you know, it does show to be effective and pay off for Jonathan.
Just forcing on a lot of 5Ks in the early turns, looking very powerful. You don't want to use your Sensu Beans early game because they help mitigate those big 25k attacks. So Jonathan just forcing the opponents to use those in the early game, use other 5k combos that could be, you know, he could even force bombs to be used defensively out of his opponents, and maybe that's where he's getting the mirror match edges. Yeah.
All right, cool. So we're going to be heading to a top 8 cut right after this. We will be seeing what the first top 8 match is going to be. It is top 16 payout, but it is top 8 playoffs. So we're going to cut to a top 8. We're going to give you what decks are in top 8. We're going to give you what players are in top 8, and then we'll get you your first top 8 match. Thank you guys again for watching. We'll be right back.